everyone, and welcome to today's Higher Education webinar. Today we are joined by Tim Carlyle, the Director of Network Computing at Northwest Missouri State University, Jonathan Kidwell, the Senior Director of Education Sales here at Cambium Networks, and Bruce Miller, the VP of Enterprise Marketing at Cambium Networks. Before we start, I do want to encourage everyone to ask any questions you have during the presentation in the questions tab on the control panel, and we'll be doing a Q&A at the end of the session. But without further ado, I will go ahead and pass it on over to you, Jonathan.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Riley. Welcome everyone today. Appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend a little time with us, and hopefully we can provide some valued insights around what we're seeing around higher ed and colleges across the globe and country. Really trying to deal and focus around student success, whether it be student recruitment and also retainment in higher ed, and the technology challenges and benefits of the learning environment changing, and then definitely with a heavy focus around the pandemic that we're all experiencing live and in person here. And so excited to have Tim from Northwest Missouri State University joining us today and sharing his experiences with us. And so just kind of get into the agenda here. For just a quick introduction, the wireless fabric, we'll spend just a few minutes talking about the end-to-end solutions that that universities and colleges can take advantage of, and then where those pieces come into play when you talk about what some of the challenges are in delivering an educational experience to students and faculty and staff and even the guests. And so, if you look at today's world, it's changed dramatically. 770 million learners worldwide across the globe have all had to pretty much change to some kind of a blended learning environment with COVID. Whether it be the campus environment, smaller class sizes, some kind of hybrid learning, in maybe 100% remote learning at first, and then as colleges and universities come back, being able to focus and deal with the different aspects of how do we handle the social distancing aspect and the technology challenges around that. 40% of students worldwide have no internet access at home. And so when you look at the number of students that are living on campus, that's a major digital divide that colleges and universities across the globe are having to overcome and deal with. And then if you start looking at the number, the percentage, just a straight percentage of the internet increase in traffic, and Tim will definitely get into some of that, what he's seen in his university later on in this call or webinar. You just see the mass amount of intensity and burden that the network has to endure. And when you think about it, the most critical asset to a university and college is the network is the foundation of delivery of all the services now. Networks have to adapt and change without a doubt, but also if it's not, it's about not just having enough bandwidth, but it's having the right services and delivering the right solutions and services to the right students and faculty at the right time. And so having bigger, fatter pipes versus having more intelligent architecture as the foundation of your learning environment is the critical piece there. So one of the things that we were as we were looking at some of the statistics, EDUCOLS did some surveys in the fall this past year and just released an infographic which had some really interesting statistics on it. I wanted to just highlight a few of these things. If you look at the 36% of all students have at least some kind of connection issues, and that could be at home, they don't have enough bandwidth. It could be whether they want to be somewhere else or going into a coffee house at night. It's just a matter of 36% of all the students have some kind of connection issues. And then 42% who live on campus struggle some point in time, you know, and that's a survey of EduCollege talking to students, which, as everyone knows, it's everything's a struggle, but the struggle is real, I guess you would say, when it comes to that. And so being able to understand how to meet those internet requirements and that student satisfaction becomes critical when you're talking about student engagement, student retention, and then also student recruitment. And I know Tim's got some interesting tidbits to share around what they're doing to make sure that student recruitment and student retainment is at a high level for Northwest and State University. And so we want to make sure that as we look at the network and being able to deliver that high quality experience, that absolutely becomes critical in a student's decision making and a parent's decision making on where they're going to send their students to college. So, you know, this was a really interesting 4 pieces that they came back and said that without a doubt, the 4 most critical things to student success and focus was the reliable internet access was the overarching most important aspect to that. And not just providing internet access in the classroom, but across the campus, and also boosting coverage to campus housing and off-campus support. Definitely device lending initiatives, and Tim's going to talk a little bit about that. What they're doing has become it's become a decision making for parents and students to where they're going to go to college, and then really encouraging that faculty to presume that students are always interconnected. It's you know, it's very easy if you do have internet access, if you do have high quality services and devices for you as a faculty member to build your lesson plans and have those expectations, but it's almost you have to do the lowest common denominator. And it's the goal of the university to raise that lowest common denominator up, but then at the same time, the faculty also, you know, it's an education piece to the faculty to assume that. And then, you know, technology support services on campus have to be always be considered. So as budgets continue to be cut, you know, potentially as enrollment may grow or fall, those services have to be at all-time high, because now the collaboration around social media and some of the applications they're using in the classroom, and you know, whether it be Zoom or any other type of, you know, Microsoft Teams or any kind of collaborative engagement, there still has to be those managed support services for those inside the university so that you can ensure success. So those were the, you know, if you're taking from a technology standpoint, what are the things that universities and colleges have to assume that they're going to do in order to deliver that? You know, I said earlier, the struggle is real. This is a really interesting aspect that even off-campus housing, there is a major struggle for access to the internet. Even on campus, you know, when you say that 58% of the time they didn't have, you know, they never or rarely had a problem, that means that 42% of the times they're having problems with connectivity. And when you're delivering your, you know, 99% of your educational environment to those students, that 42% of the time is a really tough stat to deal with. And how do you overcome that as delivering that educational solution to a student through the technology? And definitely the wireless aspect. No one, you know, no students running in and grabbing a Ethernet cable and plugging it in. They want that 24/7 all the time connectivity on the wireless side. But then it's also about preserving that wireless and making sure that if they do have, like in your campus housing, the ability to have a Ethernet port maybe for their gaming systems or whatever, because while that gaming system may not be an educational resource from the campus, it is still a key point of student recruitment and student retainment, because if they have a poor experience, they're going to look to go somewhere else. They're going to look to leverage their dollars and their assets in a different college and university. And I know, Tim, you know, we've talked a little bit about that in the past, about how you have to, as the IT person, really have to focus on having that student engagement and student success factor all the time for the delivery of those aspects. So, those are just some of the highlights as to, really, if you go back pre-pandemic, there's some of those highlights are still very real, but they've accelerated. And this last slide here really thinks about, this is the last one I really want to hit on, was the number of what students say they have to be able to do in order to be successful, in order to be happy, in order to stay engaged in their college and university. These are the top things that they shared with EduCalls on what they have to be able to do. And the number one thing was attend lectures via Zoom. And we'll go into some data around that and what Tim's seen, but also being able to, get videos at any time for a refresher, be able to download those aspects, because maybe they can't do one-to-one in-person meetings with an advisor, with a professor, and be able to access those assignments on not just the university device, but how do you provide access to a phone or the anytime learning and those type of things. And when you start looking at that, it's, the last one I take a little close to heart. My daughter's a senior at Pace University up in New York, and she's musical theater, and she's been doing ballet Zoom classes in her apartment for the last 2 semesters, and even to the point that she had to get permission from in our apartment complex for the people that live below her to do that and make sure that she can do that. And so when you think about these things, it's not just a delivery, it's a total life change, right? But if she's doing all those things and she's trying to take that ballet class, and that she has a disruption in service, then that's going to come back to the IT department, right? I mean, you've got to make sure that you have a way to deliver those high quality aspects, even to that apartment somewhere in Brooklyn while they're taking ballet. So it affects everybody across, and I don't think it's saying anything that anybody doesn't know, but it's also one of our focus at Cambium is to provide a reliable, high-speed infrastructure that is easy to manage and maintain, but also can deliver on those high-quality experiences to the users. So, Bruce,
all right.
I'll kind of let you. I'll transition it over to you. Kind of talk a little bit about the fabric and some of the things that Cambium can offer.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. So, actually interesting, kind of the opposite experience I had on the Zoom dancing lessons. I have an 8th grader, and she at some point was getting frustrated and stopped those classes. I think we all are looking forward to getting back into the real dance studios and the real classrooms. We actually had a poll here we wanted to launch just associated with what you're seeing on your universities. Are you and do you expect your students to be attending classes coming here in the fall semester? I wanted to just push a poll out there. So if you could respond here with what you expect in terms of students on campus versus remote in the fall semester. I'd like to get just a sense of that from the audience. So go ahead and pop in some numbers there, and I'll just leave it open for a little bit here, just to kind of see what and how the numbers kind of shake out here from that perspective. I know that we're seeing all kinds of things around the country in terms of different plans, but most folks obviously are looking at kicking into classes come the fall time. All right, let's go ahead and close that, and I'll share the results. And probably not surprising, about a 60-40 split there. Most people are going to be back in, but there definitely is the expectation that a lot of folks will be remote still come the fall semester. And I think there's some things that have actually fundamentally will change and are here to stay in terms of that kind of thing moving forward. Just really briefly wanted to set the stage here with something we call the wireless fabric before we kick it over to Tim, just to set the context. Following up to what Jonathan was talking about, we obviously have the need to extend connectivity everywhere, whether it's in the school, in the home, in the community, or otherwise. And so, stitching these pieces together, enabling access for everyone everywhere is pretty fundamental wireless access, internet access in general has become a utility for all of us. And the way we look at it is to talk about a wireless fabric where that connectivity can extend everywhere. So there's obviously fiber and cable and many means of delivering access. And we put together a framework of wireless technology to accomplish that. So this can be long backhaul type of technologies, up to several hundred kilometers to backhaul wireless. You have the distribution of that across, a campus, for example, a higher ed campus, being able to deliver it to buildings or between buildings. And then you have the edge of the network where you're delivering the connectivity directly to the user, typically through Wi-Fi, or it could be a wired connection. Certainly in wired campuses, Wi-Fi is king, and that access, you need ubiquitous everywhere. So those are kind of the three components: the long backhaul point to point, the mid-range distribution, and then the access at the edge of the network. We stitched that together into a solution called the wireless fabric to be able to connect really anything, anywhere, at any time, and to ensure that connectivity becomes a fundamental and reliable utility for all your users and your constituents. And we've seen that now extend. Yeah, go ahead.
One thing that was just, I know that a lot of people, when you think about wireless, you think, typical in a Wi-Fi environment, but you're talking about some of the technologies that we offer, providing multi-gig, more than 10 gig solutions on a backhaul, and being able to compete and even outperform fiber rollouts, and depending upon where you are and how far you want to go, for sure. But it can be, a third the cost and the same type of service provider experience that you'd be expecting from a fiber layout also. So it's not just
right.
a two access points bridging a backhaul together that some people may historically think about from a wireless connection.
Yeah, and we have actually a little TCO example coming up in a little bit that kind of shows the contrast between the wireless and the fiber, and some of the advantages that can bring. All right, I'm going to jump ahead here and just hand it off to Tim here from Northwest Missouri State, one of our customers here. And so, Tim, take it away in terms of describing a little bit about what you're doing on your campus.
Yep. Thank you, Bruce. So on campus here, we are running Xeris Wireless that was bought out. We have about 65,000 students to 7,000. I think this year it might have been a little bit more, but that's online, on campus. About 700 employees. We're in the northwest corner of Missouri, about 2 hours away from any bigger city that people might know, Kansas City, Omaha, Des Moines. Go ahead, next slide. So we have Xeris across campus, about 1,700 access points, almost 1,800 now. We have we've got a new ag learning center we're bringing on, so that'll bring some more access points. So there'll be the XB3, 8, Wi-Fi 6 radios. So we're managing it. We just migrated to the cloud 3 years ago, and used to have the on-campus software edition, and there's still some features missing, but it's working out very well that I can manage now from anywhere. I can be on vacation or out of the university and be able to manage it remotely now instead of only being able to do it when it was on campus. So we use the XR320s as all the residence halls to give them wireless in their room, and then allows them to have 4 Ethernet ports so that they can plug in their consoles, computers. We did it when we first did that. We were kind of pushing a couple years ago. We're pushing to have consoles plugged in directly, so that was kind of the push to have those. And so now we have gotten newer firewalls that have a better app control inspection, so we can kind of allow the consoles without having to have static addresses for those devices to allow them to traverse the firewalls. So this XR620s are just a little round 2 radio. We have those just in little filler spots in smaller areas where we don't need the capacity, but it does give us the coverage. XD4s, that's probably our biggest number we have on campus right now. That's covering a lot of our academic buildings with 4 radios. Mostly we do one in the classroom and then spread them out through the hallways just to kind of give us that overall coverage. If something happens to one, then they can pick up either side, but it gives us that way. Previously we had our previous wireless coverage we had several years ago. it was a nightmare. We kind of did that same thing, but we would have had to put 3 or 4 of those in a room just to get the same coverage we're getting with this. And when we started going down this road with Xeris, the president, we've talked and bought in a couple buildings in and set them up and had people using them, and it turned out very well. And so we presented it to the president and the board, and they gave us approval to move forward with replacing the whole campus. So that's how we've ended up with the about 1,800 or more access points. It's been very easy to manage, very well. It's with the 4 radios, you don't have to put as many in each room. We've talked with other schools about how they've done things, and well, we just don't see how you're doing that. And it's like, well, it's especially back when we were almost going to go with the 8 radios. I think we had some 8 radios we purchased when they were first out, but those went away, and just now it's the 4 radios. But it still does very well. We're very happy with it, and we'll continue to move forward with it. We do have a couple places that we have outdoor, but it's not. The students would like to have it more, but we just haven't had we just don't have good locations to do it. And then the timing of the year, it's only a few months out of the year that it would be available for actually comfortable weather to sit outside and do things. So most of the time the students are just out there to enjoy the weather instead of trying to do homework or anything. And then, like I said, we're expanding into the Wi-Fi 6 with the XB3s. In a couple of buildings, we had some older models that we needed to get replaced because they were running out of support. So we replaced those, and they have worked out very well. In our academic building, our computer science business building has been replaced, and then we have a lab school on campus that of education, and those are our 2 buildings we started with, and everybody's been very happy with it. But of course, with COVID, it's not been fully utilized with the smaller classes. Next slide.
Hey, Tim,
Yep.
One question on the dorm deployment. Could you describe a little bit about in this case, I think you have all your dorms on campus and you're managing them really as part of the broader network, correct? And then
Correct,
and then
yeah.
how much you get probably a lot of usage, right, from the kids in the dorm and everything that they're doing. How does that work for you, managing that and then along with the rest of the campus for the classrooms and everything else going on? Can you describe that a little bit?
Yep. So with the XR 320s, like I said, we've given them Wi-Fi in their room. So now it used to be that we had, we tried to put some of our buildings are older and block and, have the reinforced steel in them. And so we tried multiple different ways of, putting access points in the hallway. And so the 2 rooms right next to that would be fine. And then we thought, okay, well, it'll spread out well. You get all the refrigerators, microwaves, you get everything else put in place. And so, Xeris came out with these wall-mounted ones that are for a hotel or a dorm, or it's made for this kind of a setup. And so very happy with it. Put them in. It's made it very easy to manage because we can now say, okay, hey, when a student calls in, they call in and say, hey, my wireless isn't working. Then we can look just at that one, not 5, trying to figure out, okay, which one might you be trying to connect to? So it's helped us out in that long run. Yes, it does make for a number of access points for that many rooms, but it does help out in managing just, trying to track down issues. Yes, the students do use the internet quite frequently. We actually have a 5 gig internet connection right now, and most days 2.5 to 3 gig is being used. When they go home for the summer, it's usually about 200 meg. So we're using it for, they're using it for class, but they're also for Netflix, video, console games. They're using it they're using it like they're at home, and we try to make it accessible for them. There still are issues, like some games won't work just because of the firewall, but we try to manage that and I may help them understand the expectations of, hey, not everything's going to work. It's not like you're at home. You do have several other thousands of students on campus that are trying to do the same things, or it just causes issues with trying to go through the firewall.
But if you have to do everything you can to, that goes back into, retainment of those students, right? Coming back next year, if they have that poor experience in their dorm, whether it be watching Netflix or whatever, they're going to start looking at making that decision, and also potentially posting, the the social media beast that they know they can they rise on that. It's you have to manage that and monitor that too, right?
That would be what we had going on when we had the old equipment. We had quite the frequency. I mean, Twitter wasn't that big back then, but there was emails, there was people there, social media was just starting back then. And yes, they reached out to everybody and anybody that they could. And usually that was the president. So we got hey, there's another social media post, there's something going on. And it got to a point where it was about as popular as the not having enough parking places on campus. So it was, but like I said, with going to Xeris and doing all of the upgrades we've done, we've upgraded our switch gear, we've updated the wireless, all the improvements we've made has helped that tremendously. We even have when the people come for visit days, we have parents who come when they come through to pick up their student comes through to pick up their laptop. The parents come with them, and I've had several conversations with parents that we offer a one-to-one program. We give each student gets a laptop and it's renewed. We replace them every 3 years. So the families bring that up. That's why we were looking to come here, because you provide a laptop. We have the technology. So we have all those features that looks good. That hey, it will bring the students in, and we try to keep it up to date and keep it functional so that we can keep those students coming back and getting more students.
Mm-hmm. And is that, Tim, a fundamental difference between perhaps other universities, in the area? I mean, you use that, or I guess maybe just people are aware of the fact that that's the case, and that they can come to Northwest Missouri State and have access to that technology. I mean, is that, how important is that for you?
It's very important. Our recruitment, they do go out and push that quite hard. I mean, I will say when we had our older equipment, they were pushing that. We had Wi-Fi across campus, and we didn't at that time. And so now we do. And so we're back to, okay, hey, you can push this. We do have it. We can make it happen. But yeah, our recruiters, they push that. That's number one. Books are included, and then laptops included. So when you come here, your most of your stuff, you're already set. All you got to do is come to school and pick it up, and you're ready to go to classes. So, but yeah, we've talked to a lot of our schools around here, and they've looked at doing a one-to-one program, but it just, they just can't find the money to do it. We've been doing it a number of years. That it's built in there now, so it works out. And we've had several schools come and say, hey, how do you do this? And want to know that, how do you have the staff to do it? And we have student work. They do the reloading of them, the fixing. We have a couple of staff members who do they kind of supervise everything, but the students do a lot of the maintenance and then reloading and taking care of, stocking them up and everything. So, but yeah, we've got a pretty good program set up. We do have a couple of schools that we've went and talked to because they have a program, but it's just, they've done it to where you can have a Mac or a PC, but it's always been the PC you have to add all kinds of extra software to get it to the same cost level. And we've had a lot of requests to have Macs, but we can't. There's no way we can afford it with there'd be a small niche group, because we have mass comm on campus that does a lot of design and everything, and so it's just there's just not a way we can make that affordable and still keep the program going for everybody.
Okay.
So yeah, we use application control just as a visual tool. We don't manage the actual applications through there, because we can manage it through our firewall, which just gives us a single place to manage instead of doing it in two places. So we do use it quite frequently. I go in there and look to see what applications, or even dig down into the applications to try to figure out what new ones are being used, or what new protocols are being hit across the internet network.
And just to explain that then for the folks on the line, that's a capability in the solution where you can visualize and potentially control up to 2,000 apps. So it's directly in the Wi-Fi infrastructure. So that's what Tim's referring to, just to put something behind that.
Yeah, it's in the XMS Cloud Management. It allows us to, we'll have a graph here, a screenshot of what the dashboard kind of looks
Actually, I
like.
can jump to that right now if you want there. I can
Okay.
talk a little about it.
So yeah, here's kind of what it looks like. So we have the first part there is top applications. So that's kind of what I watch. And as you can see, for 30 days, we've had just in video, it's been 21.8 terabytes. So that's Zoom, Hulu, Netflix, YouTube. But yeah, that's what's typical here in the last year and a half, just with everything going on. As I said, it shows, this is kind of the overall view that I look at about every day to see, hey, what's up, what's down, if there's any alerts, just kind of overall devices. It does, other parts of the screen gives you the different types of phones that are, the vendors that are connecting. It gives you the top devices. So like, if you, my phone or my computer, it will show up as, hey, this person's using the most, might want to go check that. So it does give you a lot of feedback. And with the top apps, you can go down and see who all's using the app. And then there's also, I don't remember what the header is for the other one, but it tells you the top protocols. And then you can dig down through that and see what program is actually using that protocol. So you can kind of dig down through that.
One of the things that was interesting to look at, I mean, and this is just a screenshot, I know, but if being able to drill down into that Zoom session, you can click there and it tells you all the APs that are running Zoom, or all the users that are concurrently running it at the same time or whatever. And really you start to see where your professors are and where your faculty is across the campus that are embracing it versus maybe not, or if you start to see that it's not happening a lot, it could be a professional development issue, right? I mean, it may be something that someone doesn't know exactly how to use it. Like you shared with us earlier around when you first started doing the Zoom sessions, they were having every student doing Zoom in the classroom, right? And it was a professional development issue around, hey, throw up the Zoom session on the screen where everybody can see each other, but everybody doesn't have to launch in class their session, right? And so you can use this as not just that my network's running, but you're using this as to ensure that the behavior and the expectations of the delivery of that instructional traffic is happening correctly across the campus.
Yeah. So we did have a few faculty who had their students all join in the video instead of just having them, if they wanted to join, just to participate in the class as a non-video, and wondered why they were skipping and having issues. And it's like, well, we didn't provide enough wireless to do all of that, and really it wouldn't be the wireless. It's just there wasn't enough capacity to come across. That we, with 1 gig uplinks on most of the access points right now, that there just wasn't enough throughput to have that. Now the connectivity to the access point would have been fine, but it just wasn't enough throughput. So we helped them, and like I said, there's just has been a few, and we've helped them understand, and they now just do it at the front and do a recording so that they can have everybody view it later or participate in the classroom. So another option that we use currently is with the authentication is we use Radius NPS with Microsoft, the network policy service, so that we can authenticate with our Windows laptops that we provide. It just is certificate based that connects in. We were doing that with the personal devices we have for everybody. Then Android 11, which yes, it wasn't. We weren't doing it correctly by giving everybody the certificate. We were just telling them to ignore the CA certificate, and so Android 11 kind of got us, and so now we're looking to deploy EasyPass portal that we can do that will let them log in. We have Office 365 for campus, so we'll be able to connect it to Azure. So when they go to that ID, it will allow them to log in with their username and password for campus. And EasyPass is another part of XMS that allows you to do different portals for guest access or Google or Azure, that you can set up the different IDs that has different authentication methods to allow you to get everybody connected.
Yeah,
and if you tested that, that's a working implementation for you?
We have not done it because we named our what we set up, because we set up a portal already for all the students to have their personal devices, but we named it personal. And so now to go across campus, we kind of feel like we need to name that personal so that it's everybody's personal device. And then for the residents, we'll name it residents. So we got to, as soon as spring gets out here, we're going to flip that and make that change, and then you know, push it out to everybody that, hey, please, when you're in the residence halls, to connect to resident and move forward with that.
Okay.
But we have tested it, and it's working as in a test environment in our office space, just to kind of play around with, but it does work very well. As said before, that you know, we replaced a couple buildings with the XV3-8s, so with the older model XR 2425. So we did go down a radio, but overall the Wi-Fi 6 is making up for that in coverage as far as we can tell right now. Does cover a little bit of bigger area that we have, because we had some offices that were just on the edge, and now they get pretty good coverage, and it is offering better throughput with you can go up to a 2.5 connection. We don't have the switches to do that yet, but probably in the next upgrade we do for switchgear, we will be getting those switches with them. And in COVID, we have reduced the size of the classes we have, so really haven't had a chance to push the new access points to try them out to see how they do on online testing and stuff, but I feel like they'll be just fine for that, for streaming and Zoom and anything to do with the Canvas that we use for our learning management system. So I think they'll be just fine, and we'll be looking to upgrade to the next iteration of access points that are Wi-Fi 6. I think there's a 4 radio either coming or out already that we'll need to look at upgrading our switches to have the higher PoE on it. So.
Could you just describe quickly your kind of just that plans, you know, kind of what you're looking at for upgrading, you know, over time, and what maybe the next year looks like for you?
So the next year, right now, we're in our maintenance renewal, so we're looking to get that upgraded here. So the XV3s that we just bought, we got them with 5 years, so those are good for 5 years. We're renewing our rest of our maintenance on our access points. So we're probably looking at a 3-year replacement on those. So get 3 years replaced, and then the XD4s will probably be the first. We'll start going every year. We're adding a few more, replacing those, getting them removed. So
your laptops are already Wi-Fi 6, so it's updating the infrastructure now as well.
Correct. Yeah, we just bought, so this last summer we just bought a set, and you know, we renewed our laptops, so we refreshed those, so we have Wi-Fi 6 on all of those. So we're in the process of, okay, hey, we gotta start getting equipment out there to start utilizing that Wi-Fi 6. So we have the access points now, and moving forward, we'll start going down that road of replacing them. We do have the equipment that it does have the newer equipment in it, but as we've seen in the past, it's not, yes, the devices have the Wi-Fi 6 or have the newer stuff, but we don't always see that it needs to go that fast. We don't need to be right on the cutting edge of it. So we have a little time to move forward. So we just kind of have to try to plan it and figure out, you know, the monies and figuring out how fast to do it. And so that's kind of why we could go 5 years on the maintenance renewal, but I think we're going to look at a 3-year just to kind of keep us in line to move forward.
One of the things that I've talked to several universities and colleges across that have moved to the XV3, the new Wi-Fi 6 AP, and you know, even if you don't have a Wi-Fi 6 device, a client, the benefits and the throughput, the capacity, and the coverage to a Wi-Fi 5 laptop, because it's not just what you're providing, right? You still have to support the infrastructure that people bring in, whether it be BOD or whatever, and even your IoT stuff on campus, and spend a little bit of time on maybe some, as you've seen the IoT grow, but with Wi-Fi 6, being able to provide a better student outcome, better students, experience and faculty experience, even for a Wi-Fi 5 device, right? Older devices. We can, and we've got, that's in the Tyler report. I think Bruce has talked about it in a little bit, but the the experience is improved even if you don't upgrade the end client to Wi-Fi 6 today.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like I said, we gotta kind of plan it out funding wise. We have money set aside every year to buy so many, and like I said, the XD4s they're not, to me, I'd like to get the most usage out of them. So we're just trying to plan that out moving forward. So like I said, we had the XR 2425s that were end of life in this support. So we definitely had to get those going. And so it's just trying to plan it out for future. Yeah, we're moving forward, and we'll just see what the next hardware coming coming in will look like to move forward with the next purchases.
Mhm. All right, thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
So any questions, please pop them into the Q&A window. We'll pick some of those up at the end.
We got one question real quick. I think it's kind of,
sure.
It says, what is your, as we talk about Wi-Fi 6 and the devices, are you planning for Wi-Fi 6E today? Is that the question literally just came in on that. So I don't know, Tim, if you looked at that or planning for that, and we can definitely speak to it from a manufacturer standpoint, but let you speak first.
I've heard about it, kind of looked at it a little bit, but haven't heard any. I will say I haven't heard anything about any new equipment coming for 6E. I've seen the different companies that are moving towards that to provide it. So probably we'll look, if that's new equipment comes out with that, we'll probably move that direction. Just kind of, it's looking at what new hardware comes out and seeing which direction to go from there.
Yeah, and just speaking from the manufacturer side, so 6E or 6 gigahertz is certainly in our plans. And just for folks who don't know, it's a whole new portion of the spectrum, 59 channels that are being opened up by the FCC, which basically triples the amount of spectrum available for Wi-Fi. So this is a huge shift in terms of the technology and the bandwidth available for Wi-Fi. So, as a vendor, Cambium and most of the industry is very excited about this. We have products coming out later this year on that. So when those are ready, we'll certainly be talking about those. And I'm sure they'll slipstream into some of the upgrades that Tim is going to be doing as well, but not quite available yet. We started to see some of this roll out in the consumer space, and it'll catch up in the enterprise space here pretty quickly. So stay tuned for more on that. But again, a huge technology shift in Wi-Fi that we're definitely looking to jump on as soon as we can. We've had some webinars on the topic actually, so if you are interested in what's going on there, check out the Cambium, the YouTube channel, and we have several dedicated sessions to 60 gigahertz and exactly what's happening there in terms of the standards and the future plans. Yeah,
I think just one last thing to add to that would just be preservation of the investment of our customers, right? We don't want what we want to ensure as new technologies come up. Now, if you look at what Tim's got out there, you've got technology that's 3, 4, 5 years old, right? That you're running with today's brand new wireless access points, and as a manufacturer, we want you to upgrade and grow and provide a better experience based on your needs, not based on a technology change that forces a complete rip and replace, right? And so as 6E becomes available, like you said, Bruce, it'll integrate into your current architecture. It's not going to require an upgrade of everything or even a different management platform. The goal is just to continue to grow with you that technology and not force you on technology.
Our general approach there is software-defined radios. So that's something that we've been selling as Xeris and now at Cambium going back, more than a dozen years, where the new technology comes out, you can just software reprogram the radio to run in the new spectrum. So we're carrying forward that philosophy as we move into 6 gigahertz. So I'm going to just briefly hit some highlights in this next section here because we're going to run out of time otherwise. But Tim talked about the edge of the network and the Wi-Fi side and the access that we provide, that touches the students and the faculty directly. We have a broader solution then that provides connectivity across campus. And so I wanted to touch on a few use cases here, which may be applicable to what you might be looking to do within your environment or otherwise. Make sure that you're aware of some of these solutions. There's local connectivity, but now we can talk about, building to building connectivity, bridge products. You're possibly using some of these today to connect, line of sight or further distances across campus between buildings as an alternative to fiber or trenching or otherwise. And these can be very simple, quick to set up. We have some bridge in a box type of products that can do this. Support hundreds of megabits of connections, up to several miles away. So, this allows you to expand those networks that we've been talking about here, and do it through a wireless mechanism that can be extremely reliable and cost effective at the same time. And this is the simplest actually of the use cases that we'll talk about here. If we expand that view to something like video surveillance or distributing the Wi-Fi network to remote locations across campus, perhaps even doing that in a temporary fashion, an event or something that might be happening, backhauling from a sports facility or something like that. Then there's the point to multi-point concept where you have a single device or a hub that essentially provides connectivity to a number of different locations. And video is a huge use case for this. Obviously, concerns in terms of security or otherwise, it could be, sending sports, video broadcasts back over the network. And there's a dedicated solution that we provide for that called CNvision that focuses on video backhaul and integrating with the different VMS systems that are out there for video surveillance. And I wanted to point this out too, mentioned a little bit earlier, just in terms of the ROI relative to trenching and pulling fiber to these locations. Clearly, if you have a temporary kind of scenario, this makes a lot of sense, but the numbers just work out so dramatic when you look at fiber versus wireless. And of course, your mileage may vary. This is a representative example of a pretty significant fiber, connections versus what you might be able to do with a wireless backhaul. But huge savings, time, money, scale. Ultimately, some of these things can be expanded as well, and set up very quickly and easily too. So, there's tools, there's planning associated with this, link budgets and things like that when you do these kinds of setups. But I think the bottom line is the cost and the time are really the two big things that represent a significant savings when it comes to these kinds of technologies for connecting your campus locations. You go further into remote types of connections. So, whether it's across a public street or, off-campus housing, or it could be between sites. Maybe you have a distant site that's 20 miles away or 30 kilometers away that you want to connect. The point-to-point technology is quite sophisticated today and can set up, multi-hundred megabit per second links to very far distances. And there's a whole slew of solutions that do that and can stretch out, into even gigabit level connectivity. You might have hear of millimeter wave or 60 gigahertz. That technology is now on the market as well. And it's actually Wi-Fi, 802.11ay. That's a Wi-Fi technology and protocol, and now allows you to extend into the 60 gigahertz spectrum and get huge bandwidth levels, like over 10 gigabits in shorter type of distances. But you're now talking multi-gigabit capabilities with this technology. And then extending into the community. So, we have some customers today, some university customers today that are extending their network into the community to connect, perhaps their students initially, their dorms, which may be in off-campus locations, for example, perhaps sorority houses or otherwise that may be in the surrounding area. And we actually have some customers that have actually extended that into being an ISP to serve even beyond their student population, and being able to connect those links and then provide the Wi-Fi, perhaps residential type of Wi-Fi solutions, in the house or the apartment or the dorm, or otherwise. So there's lots of potential there to extend that network even further than where it's been in the past. And, running these networks, there's the technology there, and the funding as well can be potentially procured from, grants or government funds that have been identified. So there's a lot of opportunity there with broadband connectivity and stimulus money that has come from the government to push this out to rural areas or otherwise to ensure that everybody has access. Going back to one of those first slides, you look around the world, it's 40%. You look in the U.S., it's about 20% of households do not have internet at all. Clearly, in a higher ed, community, that's a fundamental. You need 100% coverage, but that can extend into other applications even beyond that. And we have some, customers, as I mentioned, who have essentially become ISPs to be able to ensure that that coverage is there, first and foremost for their own constituents, but then even beyond that as well. And then extending outdoors, this is perhaps just a subset of the previous one, but we've seen a lot of outdoor connectivity requirements pop up, with COVID-related use cases as well. So this could be extending into parking lots or other park or outside areas around campus. So this is another thing that we've seen, quite a trend on related to COVID type of use cases, just ensuring that there is availability, in the extreme cases where you're doing drive-up Wi-Fi and need to be able to connect in a local area to be able to access the network.
Well, I know we've talked to several, universities and colleges that have opened up their campuses even for the COVID testing and being on drive-through. And I don't know, Tim, if y'all have been part of that with your community, but I know several across the country have. And, being able to quickly and rapidly deploy an outdoor, whether it be temporary or long-term wireless, opportunity to rapidly deploy that, and then also secure that, right? Because you don't know who's, it's also protection of your assets and the university assets that you don't just want to let everybody on the same network and the same security levels. And so being able to be a supporting aspect to your community and to the support, but also in a protection and safe and secure environment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And related to that, I have a poll here, just launched real quickly related to outdoor coverage. So if you could take a look at this and indicate if COVID has created some new use cases for you to increase outdoor wireless coverage across campus related to that requirement. So if that's something that you've done, it would be interesting to hear from you if that's something that's important or that you've seen the use case for. I know we have a number of customers who have done this temporarily or just pop out through a wall and hang an AP on an outside parking lot type of location, this kind of thing, or perhaps in light poles. Tim mentioned some outdoor coverage. Maybe in warmer weather climates we've seen this even to a greater extent. So there's different types of experiences that we've seen there. So. All right, got some feedback coming in here. So it looks like about a little over a third of you were looking at outdoor coverage use cases. So that sounds about right. I mean, we certainly a chunk of folks are, and others perhaps already had good coverage in those kinds of areas. So that's an interesting data point in terms of just what we're seeing out there. All right. This last section here, has some of the kind of the key differentiators and some of the things that we're doing. We're not going to have enough time, for everything here. I will just point you to the handout section. You can download the presentation and see a bit more about some of these pieces here. Let me just hit a couple highlights, and I'll kind of tie that into some of the things that we talked about earlier. But the overall kind of perspective to get on some of these solutions here is really the ability to deliver wireless across the entire campus and even beyond campus and off campus, a multi-gigabit fabric as we call it. So whether that's urban or rural, whether it's indoor or outdoor, obviously you're covering your buildings, you're addressing connectivity local to and to connect your students and your staff and faculty. But think in terms of the ability to expand and extend that wireless elsewhere, and to do that very cost effectively and quickly. Compared to perhaps what you may be looking to do otherwise in laying fiber or connecting through other wired types of technologies. And that's the fabric that we talk about from that perspective. Tim mentioned it a little bit earlier, the EasyPass solution. And this is something, I did want to emphasize here, very important. You have a wireless network, you're connecting all types of constituents to that, and IoT is increasingly becoming a big percentage of that, whether it's sensors, for HVAC or door locks or, all types of scenarios, right? It could be digital signage. There's all types of devices that are essentially headless, right? They're not a computer screen or something that you type into. They got to connect to the network, and you got to do that efficiently. We've created within EasyPass 8 different portals that address all these different use cases. Tim was referring earlier to the Microsoft Azure portal, where you can basically authenticate users into their Outlook 365 at the same time as they connect to Wi-Fi. So it's a single sign-on experience. You use the username and password for the Microsoft Azure, and that connects them right onto the Wi-Fi network in a single process, and that makes that whole scheme very efficient. We mentioned applications, the ability to prioritize and limit. So Zoom, make sure that traffic, it's taking up terabytes of data. If you have the bandwidth, great. If you have some constraints there, you can control that, or perhaps even limit or block out certain apps at certain times of day. So, this application intelligence directly in the infrastructure can make a big difference when you are running into congestion, perhaps in that classroom with 50 students all trying to do Zoom at once. Let's prioritize it, but get rid of, WhatsApp and social media and everything else that might be otherwise taking on that bandwidth. And then another one here we referred to earlier was around software-defined radios. So something to kind of look at in terms of where you're going. Somebody asked about 6 gigahertz earlier. The ability to software-define and change these radios. The picture on the right can be changed, right? These radios can be reprogrammed to optimize for a specific technology. So you not only deploy fewer access points, but you can optimize to the solution to what you have. If you have more 5 gigahertz clients or 6 gigahertz clients, I can change the radios to those technologies and not be stuck with a fixed type of approach. So that's another thing that we referred to. And then Jonathan mentioned the Talia report. So we do have a report, third-party report, which compares the solutions that we talked about, the XV3 in particular, relative to some other competitors. So you're welcome to download that report. We did attach it as a handout in this webinar as well. So look for the handouts and you can get a hold of that directly. And I'll jump ahead to that, the follow-ups here. So just kind of a summary of a few points here. If you want to follow up, you can download some reports. We have a TCO profiler, which we can actually do an assessment in terms of the cost of these networks as well. So a few things here for you to follow up on based on some of the information we talked about here today. So I want to make sure we got some time for some questions here.
One thing I want to get on there, Bruce, if you don't, just and for those of you who may not be familiar with it, if you're familiar with the Heritage Xeris, always provided a free Wi-Fi designer. Think of it as almost a EchoHal Lite, but it's on our website. We have all of our access points on that it's free for you to use. And so if you can upload a fire escape plan or building plan of a site and really start to see that, the coverage capability. You can model your walls and, cinder block, brick, or like Tim was saying, as they were looking to deploy their wireless in their dorms a while back and trying to figure out if they needed to do a hallway deployment or whatever. This free Wi-Fi designer really it allows you to get that first step understanding of what Wi-Fi 6 and the number of radios in an AP can do for you, and you even play around with that. And so it's very very nice. And then it'll actually print that out and provide you a PDF of what that looks like. And more than happy to help anybody with that, walk you through it. But it's very easy to use and self-paced. And I think if you're looking to move into that Wi-Fi 6, or if you have problems on campus and you're struggling with what do I need to do and where do I get started, that's really a place that I would point you to that I think that you can gain a lot of benefit out of quickly.
Yeah, good point. And that's that's right there on the website to click through and start looking at what you could do with these solutions. We're running a little long here. Maybe we'd take a couple questions here quick. Didn't want to leave these hanging here. But a few that have come in. Is the LDAP protocol used? And yes, we integrate with different directory systems. Active Directory, LDAP is leveraged as well. These kinds of directory systems, Google G Suite, Microsoft Azure, local directory services as well, can be leveraged through the platform. So there's a lot of flexibility there for being able to tie into directory services, authenticate users, and like I said before, do that in a single sign-on kind of fashion. EduRoam, is EduRoam integration provided? So we work with many different campuses around the world that use EduRoam. Tim, I was actually going to ask you, do you have EduRoam implemented on Northwest Missouri and that works with your system that's deployed?
No, I don't.
Okay, so you don't use EduRoam there yourself?
No, I've started looking into it, but I've just not implemented it yet.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, the answer in general for Cambium and Zura solutions is yes, we have plenty of implementations that have that solution deployed. Let's see here. We talked about Wi-Fi 6E, and then there's another question regarding Wi-Fi offloading schemes. So we work with third parties on that. There are a number of implementations that we've done with some gateway solutions that will provide the Wi-Fi offloading capability. So the answer is yes, and that just, it's not a native technology that we deliver, but we work with third-party solutions that provide offloading scenarios. Some of those have, for example, work in particular with stadiums and very high-density scenarios where you do have, 60,000 football fans in a stadium. You need to be able to ensure connectivity, and oftentimes the 4G network will have struggles in that scenario. And so in places where we deployed Wi-Fi, then the offloading can ultimately provide better service for a broad base of dense fans all looking to upload videos on, and social media posts during the game, that kind of scenario. Okay. I think that will wrap it up. I know we're a little bit late. Please, again, download any handouts that we posted up there if you have interest. We talked a little bit about the Tyler report. We also have some data sheets and a few other things there, as well as this presentation from that perspective. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining today, and appreciate the time that you took out, and definitely want to thank Tim Carlyle from Northwest Missouri State for joining us today. Appreciate your time, Tim, and helping us along the way here.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, we'll sign off. Thanks, everyone, and we'll hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks again.